Well, welcome everybody. Welcome to the newest episode of Goosebump Moment Presents. We had some technical difficulties. We were supposed to be on the air a little earlier, but what do? You got to deal with technology, right? It's a pain. I am so super excited about today's guest. You always hear me say that, but this is real. Um, I give you fair warning, folks. This one probably will go over what we normally allot time for, so be prepared. Today's guest is one of the, in my humble opinion, one of the top 3 leading business strategists, not just in the world, on the planet. Um, this man has such knowledge and such information, and we're going to be talking about something coming up. So please pay attention and don't scroll through this interview, because you're going to want to hear what we're going to be talking about. Ladies and gentlemen, my guest is Doyle Buehler, a Canadian originally, but now lives in Australia. This broadcast is coming all the way across the globe. He is a strategic storyteller, a strategic strategy trainer. He focused on execution and digital business GPS. What does that mean? He'll tell you. We've got a bunch of stuff coming up, and I don't want to delay this anymore. I want to get right into this. This man is a highly award winner, decorated man. His resume could go on for decades. So I'm so happy that he joined me. Doyle, thank you so much.
Oh, wow. Thank you for such an amazing warm welcome, BJ. Really appreciate that.
It's well deserved. Yeah,
Oh,
truly,
yeah, no, thank you.
truly
Yeah,
well deserved. All right, let's jump into this.
yeah,
Strategy storming. What the hell
yes.
is that?
Well, it's honestly, I want to kind of bring some fun and some interest and some creativity to the typically we either A, ignore strategy, or B, we kind of not really sure how to do it. So I guess they're kind of at the same thing at the end. We don't actually do it. So if we can make it a little bit more interesting, a little bit more exciting, and add some creativity to it, so it's not like a boring process that you kind of feel you have to do.
Mm-hmm.
If you've got those tools and those capabilities, we can actually make it work. And that was one of the huge things that I noticed over the last couple of years in particular, is that a lot of businesses out there, they're just kind of flying by the seat of their pants. And you know what? That's not too bad, right? It can work. Depends on what kind of business you are. But when we're faced with this massive rate of change over the
Correct.
last couple of years, and you add in the market disruptions and all that sort of thing, business cycles have dropped from like 75 years down to like 3 years. So we have to be able to reinvent and re-innovate how we actually do business. And if we don't, guess what? We're the ones that are kind of going to be disrupted. We're going to be washed out to sea. We're going to, be lost in the ocean as well. So I wanted to give businesses that capability to say, strategy, it's not that hard. We need to spend that time. It's a constant battle between today and tomorrow, but we kind of need to balance that properly. Otherwise, if we don't, something's going to fall out of place.
It really is, and I'm going to jump in here for a moment, because one of the things that I'm noticing, not only is the drop in the amount of small businesses that are entering the market today, there's a misconception and a misunderstanding about how easy it is to start a business. Um, and one of the things, if you will, just for a moment, talk about how important before starting a business is learning the soft skills,
Mhm.
because I think a lot of failure in that comes from not understanding how important role, at least the awareness. You don't necessarily have to gain the technical skill, but know that at some point in your business, you're going to have to learn all of them. Um, how important that is in starting a business or
Well,
it's rejuvenating as you're talking about.
yeah, yeah, reinventing and rejuvenating. Yeah, look, it's really important because look, starting the barrier to starting a business is like it's zero, right? It doesn't take a lot. Anybody can do it, and that's great. Like, don't get me wrong, that's fantastic. But if you want to build a business that has some staying power, that's going to be around for a while, you kind of do have to take that time to build that out. It's the the analogy that I use is like if you're going to an airport, right? You don't go to an airport randomly. So you don't kind of create a business randomly. You go and you create one with a specific goal, a specific expertise. You're taking, you're taking your customer ultimately on a journey. And where is that journey? And so to the illusion of the airport. You don't go to an airport and you don't know where you're going, right? When you get there, you know exactly where you're going. I'm flying from Minneapolis to Atlanta, right? So you have a very clear destination. You know that, okay, now I've got to go to gate whatever 32B and wait for the flight and away we go, kind of thing. In today's business world, we just kind of assume that, hey, we'll just kind of start here and we'll walk over here and then maybe take a cab there. And we don't even know if we're getting to the airport, number one, and number two, we don't even know once we get to the airport where we're going to go.
Or
So
what interruptions can happen between the original destination and the final
yeah,
destination. Things can happen.
yeah. Yeah, exactly. If you don't plan for it, right? If you
Correct.
plan for it, you prepare to arrive, whatever, 2, 3 hours or half a day before, and you'll get there, and despite rush hour traffic or whatever the case may be. So it's these simple things where we have to kind of balance that today, if you think of it as like a vertical axis, right? It's our to-do list. It's what's important to do now. It's to start our business. It's to get customers. It's to deliver our product, it's to advertise, it's to market, it's everything. So that's what we got to do today. But guess what? If we extend, to the right a little bit more and more, we have to see, okay, well, what are we preparing to actually be able to do that?
Mhm.
What if our customer changes? What if their needs change? What if we're, in a different market? What if, they can't access us? Or what if they've, changed their mind or that sort of thing? So we really have to kind of balance, and that's what I call the fulcrum there,
Yeah. Yeah.
balancing this of where it is that we're going.
Well, it also you need to be aware of what your competition is doing because
Mm.
if they're upping the game, you're going to have to do the same.
Yeah, absolutely. And honestly, if you have a good strategy is one that your competitor will never actually see or understand.
Mhm.
Right?
Mm.
That's the most powerful strategy you can ever have. If they can't actually see what it is that's kind of up here in your head, or writing it down or putting it on one of the fancy models, which I'm sure we'll be able to talk about, the most power that you can have is if they can't figure out where you're actually going, right? Where is this other business going? What are they doing? They're doing this, but are they just selling products, or are they looking at something? Are they kind of journey of transformation?
One of the things I tell people is you have to understand how important it is to be unique in what it is
Mm,
that you're offering, and there's very few
yeah.
businesses out there who are focusing on that uniqueness.
Yeah, 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 for sure. And that's why a strategy needs to be unique as well. And it needs
Yep.
to be very bespoke. It has to be about you. And I talk about it as like a strategic architecture, to say, yes, you can have like a framework, you can follow a framework, a strategy, that sort of thing. But ultimately, you have to understand how that strategy is you. It's your what, quite honestly. It's what you're going to do. How do you respond to competitive threats? How do you respond to the marketplace? How do you respond to your customer? And you need to kind of fine tune that as a fine running machine at the end of the day, because if you don't, you're getting pushed off course. If something comes up, if COVID comes up, or not even less serious, if whatever, the people can't get to your place because of flooding or access or traffic or whatever, right? It doesn't really matter. You should be prepared for that. And one of the ways we can do that is obviously having a very strong and robust digital platform to be able to allow us to be able to do that.
I agree, and I got to tell you, I just absolutely love that terminology that you threw in there. I think it just went in one ear and out the other. Some people. I watched you on a interview you were doing that came across my feed this morning, and that one of the terms was digital architecture.
Mm.
That actually speaks volumes to what it is in the strategy formation that you're trying to get across to people. It's a perfect word.
Yeah, and it has to be your foundation. Like we can talk a lot about vision and mission and goals and objectives and all that kind of stuff, but unless you have a foundation and an architecture to say, okay, this is the foundation that we're building this business upon. Yes, they include your vision and your mission and your objectives and operations and culture and all that kind of stuff. But unless you write it down, unless you put it into play, um, there's nothing really to support the company. And I know it's just like an intellectual exercise type thing, but at the end of the day, if you can actually see that and understand what is your company about, right? It's what needs to be done to be able to produce that those unique products and that unique value proposition and kind of what makes you good. And that's a strategy that your competitors will never actually understand. Again, they'll see you, you know, providing value and selling and all that good stuff, but they can't understand that architecture underneath. And that's what makes it really unique. And that's what makes it so powerful too, is that you can be running on like the AMPS model. One of the things that I talk about a lot is your audience, method, process, and story. And if you have
Mhm,
these four elements, this combination of those four elements really kind of defines, it's kind of the lock and the key. It's the Rubik's cube that you're able to kind of unfold. And that's what actually you're able then to deliver your value, because you can see how each of these pieces fit together: your audience, your method, your process, and your story. And for each one of us, that's extremely unique, right? We bring our own flavor to our overall model that nobody can duplicate, because they don't know the inner workings of that architecture.
okay, so you were showing that little model,
Yeah.
and talk about that. What's coming up? You got something that's really cool.
Yeah, well, I'm actually, well, a couple of things. It's called the AMPS model, the audience, method, process, and story, and it comes from basically throughout the pandemic. We kind of a lot of businesses came to the realization that they didn't necessarily have the tools or the training or the equipment or the understanding, the mindset to be able to kind of go through the pandemic. Um, Without obviously some long-term repercussions. So what I found again, that this kind of really highlighted, is we really need to look at how can we be prepared properly. And if you look at some of the old expeditions of the past, from Europe to Canada and the US,
Mhm,
right, when they took the ship and then they landed in eastern Canada, and then throughout the winter, I mean, the US is obviously fairly cold as well, but in Canada, like, that was you had to survive that winter for these massive expeditions. And then more recently, in the last 100 years or so, the crossing of the Atlantic by airplane and exploring in the Antarctica and in the Arctic, like, those are expeditions, and whether they were successful or failed depended a lot on how they planned and prepared for these. And the ones that were met with success, guess what? They decided up front, guess what? We need a strategy. We need an understanding of what we're going to encounter. We need like a
mhm.
radar. I talk awful lot about. So we need these pieces. So that's basically where the model came from. It's developing this process for what I call the digital expedition, building, making sure that you have all the tools, techniques, and strategies to be able to survive that expedition. And it was just sort of one of those serendipitous type moments where it's like, well, it actually, if we're making an expedition that, say, for example, is climbing a mountain, getting up to the summit is obviously important, right? But guess what? It's only half the battle. We have to go up and we have to come back down. So the
Mhm.
whole expedition is both. And then when I looked at it from on engineering nerd level, a super nerd level, it's like, hey, wait a sec, we can actually produce these into small little specific triangles that say, okay, each one of these elements forms part of your expedition, and that's basically how it came to be. And what I felt was really important was looking at it in terms of your audience, right? Who are they? What are they doing? Where are they? What how are they going about their business? Your
Mhm.
method, what is that internal structure that you provide value to? And again, that's your unique value proposition. Your process, what is that process of transformation that you're bringing your audience through? And then finally, the story is, what story are you kind of helping them along the way? um, Oftentimes we mix up story with, it's a story about us, and it's not really. Fundamentally, the story we want to tell is the story of transformation that we're going to bring them through.
Yes.
It has nothing to do with us, right? We're not the superhero, we're the Yoda, right? We want to guide our customer, guide our audience on this journey. So when you put those four elements together, it's really kind of cool, because if you make it into this shape of a mountain, and then you put these little tabs on it, and you can do some fancy folding, and you actually land out with a strategic model that becomes three-dimensional as well. And you can then actually see, how do these pieces fit together? How is it that you can actually make this work? How does, all these different elements fit together? And so you can look at it. I can pass this to you, you can print one out, you can actually do one, you can then understand, how does my business model work? I can convey this to my team, my organization. When we're talking about the business, we can talk about our competitors with this. We can see, how are they actually building their model? And if we can understand that, then we're that much further ahead. So that's kind of the model behind it. And then there's the other big kind of thing we're doing is creating a place for people to come and be creative, and kind of look at strategy in a new light, and
Mhm.
in how we reinvent our businesses and that sort of thing, and understanding change and what we need to do to overcome that. And that's called strategy storming. And that is fundamentally giving us those tools and those techniques and those strategies and those strategic thinking as well, in terms of how to do that. So we're launching the website tomorrow, and thankfully, BJ, you're coming along as well, coming to speak
Yeah.
throughout the day. So it's going to be like a marathon session, where we're talking for, I think I've got like 13 hours. And I feel my voice wavering now, so I'm not sure I'm going to be able to survive.
Bring lots of liquid, your favorite
Yeah.
beverage. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll have to bring some extra liquid.
Yeah.
But, yeah, so it's gonna be, it's a new place where you can come to gain understand, how do we actually use strategy? Where do we start? How do we create these models? And how do we find the tools? This is what I call, a a blue sky strategy model. So it's a whiteboard, right? So we can actually annotate these. This is kind of part of the creative side of it. It's like, okay, let's understand how the business fits together. Let's scribble them on here on this whiteboard. And then once we're done deciding, then we can actually put it into the 3D shape, like that as well. So we can transform it, from, you know, thinking about it to actually seeing it and doing it and understanding it and
And
seeing.
applying it.
Because
Yeah.
yeah, if you look at this in different angles, you actually see how these different pieces interact with each other.
And I think that's what's missing in the business world today, especially in the startups, but just in some of those businesses that have been around, forever and ever and ever. Um, they're not, they complain because my growth isn't where it is, and this past year my profits have been low, and I don't know what's going on because they were good in the past, and I blame it all on the economy. Well, guess what, folks? The economy is only a part of what the problem is.
Yeah.
You got to take some ownership about, again, re-enlivening, rejuvenating, restructuring, replanning, re-strategizing, rethinking, understanding what today is business world is all about. Because as
Mm,
you properly said early on, even today, it's not the same. Old tools don't apply today as they did a year and a half ago or 2
Yeah,
years
they
ago.
can't, they don't, yeah, old tools can't solve new problems and new
No.
challenges, right?
Yeah.
And that's what we're all expecting it to do. It's like, oh, I'll just apply this, I'll whatever, use social media. And guess what? The way that we've used social media has changed dramatically as well. And we have to reinvent and rethink how we're using it as well. So those old tools don't work.
No.
So we have to be clear about that. We have to, again, we have to be deliberate, and we have to be understanding that there is change and it's constant, but how do we reduce sort of that effect of change on us? And part of it is just recognizing that we need to make these changes, that we have to understand, we have to build that architecture, we have to build that platform to say this is what we're doing. And we can't, it's a dynamic thing too. We can't just, again, scribble it down on a napkin and put it on a bookshelf or put it in a pile of
Yeah.
papers, because we have to be able to look at that and reflect on that. And one of the cool things is that from these models, you can actually basically unwind them. So from this model, we've got all these different elements, and what we can actually do is put that into like an actual roadmap, a flight plan, a radar, so that we can actually, guess what, we know what we need to do next. We prioritize it in terms of the audience, method, process, and story. We've said what's important. Okay, so let's actually do something about it. It's not just creating a strategy to say, hey, I've got a strategy. It's creating one to be able to do and to act upon it. And so by using your strategy as your action, that gets you a lot further, because you know what to work on and you know when to work on it as well. And so basically you've gotten to the airport, you know which flight you're on, you know when it's going to take off, you know where you're going to get to as well. So
Well, and speaking to that, because again, there's so much misinformation, misdirection, and misunderstanding about out there. Um, One of the things that I have been finding is that a lot of people say, "Well, I've been doing this for 35 years. It's worked in the past. I don't think I need to change. I just think I need to wait it out, and do it." If the model, look, give me your view on this. If the model that you've been using has been successful, but now you're experiencing some downtime, some slow times, you may have lost a few customers that were steady and faithful in the past. Take the model that works, but twist it a little, jingle it a little, redesign it a fraction. Will that reinvigorate? I mean, you don't have to just trash everything. Just
no,
something
no.
that worked and maybe expand it in a different direction, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. It's like riding a bicycle, right? We all can, into if you learned how to ride a bike as a kid, maybe not everybody has, but if you learn to ride the bicycle as a child, you have that inherent ability, so you can ride it again
Mhm.
today and you're not going to fall over. You might not be able to do, super jumps and that kind of stuff, but you can do that. And that's what we need to recognize too, is that a lot of times, a lot of, I'm not sure who exactly, but a lot of people think that, well, yeah, you just, scratch everything, clean the slate, away you go type thing. But you're riding on so much experience, and you already have this immense mountain of value that you've created as a person and as a business. Like a lot of, people in our age group, we've been in business for a while type thing. So we've kind of seen the ropes, and it's not necessarily restarting from scratch, it's using what we know. And
Right,
to me, that's a huge opportunity that a lot of us are missing. And when we get kind of marketing advice or, business advice, they don't kind of take into account that, guess what? I've been riding this bicycle for 20 years. Yeah, I'm not, I need to practice certain techniques and that sort of thing. But guess what? I can do that. So use that, use your experience, use your wisdom, you use your knowledge, right? But we, at the same time, that's today, we also have to then focus on that vector going into the future, right? We have to look at how can we actually adjust to that. So if customers are slowing down and the activity is slower, there's something going on, and you can see these signals. That's
Yeah.
part of the what I call, well, that's part of the digital expedition, is we look for these signals. And if you're seeing those signals, guess what? That's usually telling you something very important. So you have to, again, put your strategic thinking hat on and go, okay, why are we seeing these signals? Why is this type of customer not interested or not spending as much, or waiting, or whatever the case may be? And we
Let
have to
me
look at
interrupt
that.
here just for a moment.
Yeah.
I was recently involved in a consumer survey, and
Mm,
over 17 months, I interviewed 2,300 individuals, both just ordinary consumers, business owners, and then licensed professionals who actually work from home. Their office
mm,
is now at home. When I compiled all the info and all the responses, one of the most stark differences was that the business owner and the licensed professional who has a business are not listening to what the consumer is doing. And
mm,
it's not just infrequently. You know, these two sections over here were saying, well, the consumer doesn't understand how business is done, and they'll come around. And the consumer says, listen, I want convenience. I want honesty. I want improvement in customer service. I want um, the unsolicited email, the invasion of unsolicited emails to stop. And
mm.
it's just, again, these two people over here are not listening. The consumer wants ease, they want convenience, but they still want extraordinary value for the money they spend. They don't mind spending a little extra if that value has increased. But these business owners say, I've been doing this for 35 years. I'm not changing. It's all their fault. The
Yeah.
consumer is more savvy today than
Mm.
what I think business owners understand.
Yeah, we have to recognize that. And look, a lot of the sales from the past were push sales, right?
Mhm, mhm,
Pushy sales. So you kind of
mhm.
convince the person that, yeah, you should buy my stuff, kind of thing. But really, yeah, the whole mindset of being a consumer, or B2B consumer, as well, has changed, in that, yeah, it is very demanding. It is very specific. They don't have time for the BS. They don't have time for,
No,
whatever, going through multiple hoops just to find out, some little piece of information, whether it's good or not for them. So yeah, they're jumping ship. And you know what? You need to see those signals and recognize them, and then do something about that too, right?
right.
If you don't, yeah, guess what? You might not be in business in a couple of years. You might, but it
Well,
might be a smaller business.
and the old philosophy of consistency
Mm,
is even more prevalent today in today's market, because even though you thought you were out there and constant and spending a whole lot of time on branding and marketing, you now have to up your game a little more because your
mm.
competitors are doing it more. The consumer demands more of it. Um, so yeah, I mean, this whole thing has changed, and we have to understand where it is. I don't want to see small businesses fail, but we
No, no,
need
no,
them.
no.
We need them. So
Yeah, look, you have to think smarter, right?
right,
Be smarter, not work harder. Work smarter, not harder.
right,
So take these signals and understand how they fit, and adjust for them. There's an example I used in one of my workshops called survivorship bias, right? Where the World War II airplanes. I don't know if you remember that story, but yeah.
yeah,
Um, but, yeah, look, they were trying to protect the wrong parts of the aircraft to protect them. When the
right,
aircraft were coming back, they had the bullet holes because 'cause they're getting shot over Europe, come back. They wanted to put, metal plating and protective plating over the where the holes were, but the problem is that the airplanes that weren't coming back had the holes in the exact opposite locations. So they weren't surviving. They
right,
were crashing. So we could only see the problem from what was presented to us, but the solution was neither of those. It was protecting the aircraft in the spots that had no bullet holes.
correct,
So it's kind of that twist, that ability to kind of see a little bit differently. And that's what I want to kind of encourage here with strategy storming, is how do we actually look at these problems a little bit differently? How do we take those signals? How do we actually adapt? How do we create it into something that allows us to focus on that and accepts that we have to change and that we have to adjust and we have to tweak our models?
And change isn't easy for people, but that's the
Yeah.
one that actually is probably the toughest soft skill that any business owner needs to learn. Uh,
Yeah.
because that,
We're all change agents.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
At the end of the
exactly.
day.
Okay, so let's talk about what you got coming up to tomorrow or today and tomorrow.
Yeah.
Their time zones. Let me tell you, folks, because he's in Australia, what this man has put together has, for me, is genius because he's doing this globally, and the time zone he sent forth a listing of all the time zones. That must have been a nightmare to put together.
Yeah, it was fun. So I had to use timeanddate.com, I think, are the guys who allow you to kind of see that. Otherwise, yeah, it can be quite challenging, but fun too, because then we can kind of bounce around the planet as well. So yeah, no, I'm really looking forward to it. And that's to celebrate the grand opening of this new sort of platform to be able to come and see how do we think differently? How do we adapt to change? How do we think strategically, and how do we put these pieces in place as well? So
How do they?
um
How do people, if they're interested, should be interested, folks? I'm telling you, I'm pointing my mama finger at you. You need to be interested in this. How do they sign up or learn more about it?
if you go to there's a couple ways. If you go to the main site, strategystorming.co, there's you can go into the blog, and actually, sorry, there's a banner right at the top that says, we're having our grand opening, a launch, and then you can actually register for the Zoom session as well, and that's where you'll be joining me as well throughout the times. Or you can go to bit.ly/grand opening 2022, and that goes direct to the Zoom booking page as well. So bit.ly/grand opening 2022. And there's a whole bunch of prizes. I've got a whole stack of books over here
Oh, and these
that
books are fabulous, folks. I'm
I'm
telling
giving away from business authors from around the world. I've got some of my worksheets and some of my templates and some of my workbooks, giving those away for free. And we've got like fun product, but a strategy lab coat, which I kind of like to have fun with, because as when you're in high school or that sort of thing, and you put on your lab coat for chemistry class, right? You
you.
knew exactly what you were going to do. So
Right.
that's what, again, we want to change the mindset, is like when you put on your blue sky strategy lab coat, that you're up to the task and you're going to get some good stuff done as well. So you can win that as well, your very own strategy lab coat.
Well,
Oh,
that's kind
and
of cool. And your 3D glasses got to throw a
oh
little.
yeah, I was just about to grab those.
Yeah,
And everybody who shows up on Zoom gets a pair of 3D glasses.
yeah. There you go. There you
So
go.
to
Yeah,
help you in your problem solving.
yeah. Oh, okay, that comes from your engineering background. That is insane. Yeah, insane,
Yeah.
insane. Um, okay, so I want to make it clear to today's session, today, wherever you are in the world. Um, for me, it begins at 8 p.m. tonight.
Yeah. So 9 p.m. Eastern time in the US, which is 9 a.m. tomorrow morning
For
for
you.
me.
Yeah. And then tomorrow,
Yes, it gets confusing.
it's not a 24-hour session, right? You're
No,
having it, yeah, obviously.
it's 13 hours. So I finish at 10 p.m. my time. So
So it's
9 a.m. to,
continual. It's
yeah,
continual.
yeah, yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
So
I
I hope my voice lasts.
yeah. Oh my gosh, I didn't realize that. Okay. So
It's
tomorrow,
a big marathon. Yeah.
yeah, okay. So then people can come in and out as they wish. Is that
Yeah.
correct?
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely. So if you follow me on LinkedIn, it'll also be broadcast live onto my LinkedIn channel, my Facebook channel as well. So please feel free to follow and watch there. But if you want to come in and join and talk with the speakers, or ask any questions, or meet some other people, then you're more than welcome to come onto the Zoom session itself.
Okay.
So
So Facebook
yeah,
Live tomorrow on Doyle Buehler. Is that Doyle Buehler Facebook, or is there
yeah.
is it strategy storming?
No, it's just Doyle Bueller. Yeah, it's on my personal profile on Facebook and on LinkedIn as well. You'll be able to see it in my feed
Okay.
as well. So yeah,
Okay, that's very cool. So again, if you can't make it, at least you can go and catch parts of it as you're working or traveling throughout the day, and catch. I'm telling you, these are exquisite tidbits. I I'm serious. Okay, guys,
thank you.
Doyle, we're going to wrap this up for the moment. From the bottom of my heart, thank you so much.
No,
Uh,
my always a pleasure.
well, it is, and again, everybody from your partnership sends all their love to you. Um, I'm going to do my little commercial here before we close out.
Yeah.
I have another interview coming up in about 30 minutes. Again, broadcasted on my Facebook, on my LinkedIn, my YouTube channel. This is with a gentleman out of the UK called Roderick Lance. I don't know how many of you are aware, but the UK is experiencing a nightmare in utility costs. You think, for those of you here in the States, if you think your utility costs are outrageous, sweetie, you have no idea what they're going through over there, on top of all the inflation expenses and everything we're all experiencing. Their situation is a nightmare, and Roderick's going to show you how to save money and make money with the company that he is with. And then tomorrow I have Betsy Reinke, who is from here in the States, and she is you'll just have to come and see, because she's exquisite in what her talent is. And then, if anybody is interested in becoming a sponsor of these programs, of these interviews, reach out to me, because you can get branded down here at the bottom, or maybe an extra little brand up here at the top that says this program is sponsored by, and we can help you get branded and get shined out and showcased and get you noticed. So if you would like to be interested in sponsoring these programs, give me a shout out. That's all I have for today. Once again, Doyle, much love and hugs. Thank you so much. And for all of those of you who are watching this now or will catch the replay, thank you so much for supporting Goosebump Moment Presents, because this is all about you. This is all about businesses. This is all about getting you noticed to help you shine out and help you attract those potential clients that you need. So thank you, everybody, from the bottom of my heart, and we'll catch you in about 30 minutes. All right? Doyle, once again, thank you so much.
Thank you so much.